Have you ever just accidentally rolled a ball into a river and then you just have to stand there and sadly watch it roll downstream? Or what about the specific Animal Crossing game that has the saddest villager dialogue when a villager finally tells you their plans on moving away? There's some moments in the Animal Crossing series that are almost seemingly out of place compared to the light and upbeat mood that's often present throughout a regular Animal Crossing playthrough. Some of the saddest and most heartbreaking moments, though, drastically contrast the typical day-to-day play style and serve as, in a way, sometimes a more meaningful juxtaposition to the way that the main game is played. But man, do some of these moments really stand out? So we're gonna go through them, whether they're nuanced, tiny things, or just some outright sad moments that are purposely put in the game. But let's just go ahead and take a closer look here. Okay, I mentioned this one earlier, but in the original Animal Crossing game, you could be just chilling, kicking a ball around, and then whoops, you kick it too far and it falls in the river. And to a new player, you might be like, oh, I'll just get it out. But soon you realize you can't. Once it's in the river, it is gone forever, and you can follow that ball as it floats downstream until it eventually makes its way to the ocean, and eventually you'll never see the ball again. It's actually really sad. This was mostly just in the original Animal Crossing game, but in later Animal Crossing games and the original one, the same thing could happen if you were rolling a snowball. And not only would that be really heartbreaking because you're trying to make a snowman, you're trying to get the snowballs as big as possible to combine them to put the snowman together. If you hit it in the river, you just watch it slowly melt away and realize that, well, there goes your chance for the day on that. Or alternatively, you could hit an object with your snowball and it would break, and then you're still out of luck. But let's say you go through all of the trouble of pushing the snowballs together and you eventually do get them together and you finally make a snowman or a snowboy. You did it! Congratulations! However, in the older Animal Crossing games, specifically the GameCube version, there was something bittersweet about making the snowman. When you talk to him, the dialogue comes across as happy, but also this sad feeling of the realization that slowly this snowman will melt away, and the snowman also seems conscious about that occurring as well. Sure, he's thankful to exist, but the tragedy surrounding the life and death of the snowman is actually kind of profound. He's only here to exist in this world for a few moments, to leave impressions on others, and then fades away. Okay, this next one, we'll just go through it a little bit more lightheartedly because I don't want everyone to just feel sad watching this video. But some of the Animal Crossing villagers have some really heartbreaking stories if you look at them. Specifically, the main characters that aren't villagers but special characters. We've talked about a lot of these before, like Tom Nook, who had big aspirations to make it in the city. Maybe even at one point he had a fling with Sable, and he left everything behind to go pursue a career in the city. He ended up getting scammed by a business partner, likely Red, and lost everything and has been bitter towards the world ever since. Though, possibly more lately, he's been opening up to things. It's a pretty wild backstory that was shown originally in Animal Crossing Wild World, and if you want to see the whole story, you should watch our Tom Nook evolution video we did. There's some other interesting ones though, like Isabelle and Digby apparently were like abandoned in a box or something like that in Wild World. There's like a little brief snippet of a story, and that sounds kind of sad. Tom Nook discovered Timmy and Tommy on the streets, abandoned, and decided to take them in and raise them almost like his own kids, but he doesn't consider them his kids. He's very clear about that. Sable, Mabel, and LaBelle had their parents pass away, and Sable, being the oldest, had to end up raising Mabel and LaBelle so that they could have a happy life and live their life to the fullest. Also, Phyllis from the post office has been seen to talk about Pelly and how she is hopelessly in love with Pete, who doesn't really seem to reciprocate too much of those feelings back to her. Matter of fact, there's a couple of lines of dialogue that might even suggest that Pete has his eyes somewhere else, not that Phyllis is interested in him either. Now, before the days of Animal Crossing using messages in a bottle to give you a DIY recipe, messages in a bottle were a little bit more random and sporadic in the previous titles of Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing Wild World, though, specifically had a couple of messages that would definitely make someone raise an eyebrow if they read it, and in a way, they're kind of sad if you think about them. This one seems nice at first until you think about the context of it. To my beloved wife, I'm not the best at expressing myself, but I appreciate you more than words can say. Thanks, your loving husband. A sweet letter, sure, but at the end of the day, this husband chose to put the letter in a bottle and throw it away to sea. This one was shared on Reddit about 5 years ago, and verifying these ones are a little bit tricky, but with the way this next one's written, I tend to believe that it's probably true, just with how dark in tone Wild World's writing sometimes could get. Listen up. If you're reading this, it's probably too late for me. Take care of things for me, would you? Farewell. Oof, right in the feels, and not in like the Drake's album type of way. Nowadays in Animal Crossing New Horizons, you get a chance to talk to a villager when they're first thinking about moving out. You even have a chance to say goodbye when they do decide to move away. However, in the older games, you had no clue that this would be something coming. You would just log in one day to your town and you would have a letter, and that's all you had to go off of. When I did my 100 days on Animal Crossing GameCube version, one of my villagers just abruptly moved away and only left a letter behind letting me know. My little Elijah, I can't stand for anyone to see me cry. You must know that's the only reason I left without saying goodbye. Even now, the tears are, I can't bear it, farewell, yours, Kitty. Okay, maybe this one was a little over the top, a little theatrical, which kind of seems in line for a villager like Kitty, but still, you can see like the shock factor of getting a letter and maybe being a kid and not fully understanding why or if you did something wrong to cause this to happen, and just like that, one of your villagers is gone. This is actually something that's reflected on in the Animal Crossing anime that released only in Japan years ago. There's a little plot point that happens where the main character Ai realizes that she missed out on getting to say goodbye to one of her friends before her friend moved away from the village. And man, Ai is heartbroken, and I think that's pretty representative to how some players back in the day when we were kids playing these games felt when they found out that their favorite villager was leaving them after all of the things that they've been through together. Okay, this next one's not really sad, but it could have been sad. You know Cyrus and Reese? You ever wonder how they met? Well, according to the Animal Crossing fandom wiki, Reese and Cyrus made eye contact for the first time while Cyrus was driving his motorcycle, which consequently caused him to crash into an ice cream truck. Reese then took him to the emergency room, and they've been together ever since. How romantic, I guess? In Animal Crossing City Folk, we see an interesting dynamic when it comes to Gracie and LaBelle as they are partnered up together, and LaBelle's kind of introduced to the franchise for the first time. Though it is interesting how Gracie talks about LaBelle, and it gives more context to LaBelle and her backstory and her struggles, and you kind of start to feel sympathetic for LaBelle in a way that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise. Gracie can be kind of condescending towards LaBelle too, sometimes referring to her as her young assistant who is a mess, and will even overshare some things about LaBelle, like how she lost another contest and how she's been down on herself. These Able sisters definitely have had it pretty hard over the years. Every once in a while, a villager might share some interesting things that give some insight on their lives, and sometimes you can feel bad for them in a way, especially when you get a letter that just kind of pulls at your heartstrings a little. Sometimes I like just being alone, but there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. Eventually, the quiet gets to me, and I need some company. That was a hint, by the way, in case you didn't notice. Your needy friend, Coco. I don't know, this one just makes me feel guilty for not spending enough time talking to villagers, but I love the way that the writing in the Animal Crossing games, where we get letters like this, kind of paint a bigger picture and give some depth to these characters that you wouldn't otherwise think about. Animal Crossing New Horizons seemingly takes things a little bit safer when it comes to some of the dialogue options in the game. We've talked about this before, but there are some moments that are still kind of filled with those feels, if you know what I'm talking about, especially when a villager is moving away, but sometimes you almost feel worse for the other villagers that are also going through the stages of grief, knowing that one of their fellow friends are leaving them as well, like this dialogue with Dom. Well, I guess Nana's last day here is today. Wow. I didn't think she'd do it. I'm trying real hard not to cry. I'm sad and all, but my tear ducts are so buff that crying super hurts. Nope. Nope. Uh-oh. Ow, 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 ow. And that's it. That's how Dom just ends that conversation. Okay, but what if we walk down a darker path now and talk about some really deep cutting ones that exist in Animal Crossing? Like if you choose to delete your town. Now, there's been a couple of channels that have done a great job at documenting all of these occurrences. Of across the franchise history. But the one thing that always has stood out as maybe one of the hardest hitting ones is the GameCube version, where the GameCube version really tries to guilt you for choosing to delete the save file and start a new town in Animal Crossing to completely start fresh. In the original GameCube version, on the main menu of the game, you get one of your villagers talking to you to introduce you before you start playing, but you can go into the further settings and we'll have options like demolish a house or demolish a town. If you pick demolish a town, the instant reaction from the character that also lives in the town is just shock and horror almost. What? Are you sure? But if you want to build a new town, then everything in the town will be erased. You can see in this footage here by Nintendo Unity, Sven is very pressed about this situation. No one living in the town now will survive. This is straight up lore now at this point. This is coming straight from an official Animal Crossing source that if you restart your town, all of the villagers in the town will die. They will not survive, which is very, very dark for an all ages game like Animal Crossing. They did not use this specific wording in later iterations when you choose to delete town. Still, they kind of do the whole like shocked approach with other games, but definitely once you make the decision, they kind of like lay off the guilt a bit. However, the original Animal Crossing puts its foot down on the gas pedal with the guilt when you do choose to delete your town. Everything in your house will vanish, every last piece of furniture gone. And if anyone is out traveling, like the way you could take your memory card and move your player to go visit another player's town, there won't be any town to come home to. Are you still sure you want to create a new town? After all that, if you still say yes, Sven will go ahead and delete your town, or whatever villager's talking to you will delete your town. But his response is kind of tragic. He almost protests it. Why? I don't get it. All right, I'll erase the town, but I won't like it. And then as he's erasing the town, instead of the normal loading sound you hear when you start up a town, you get this eerie descending type music representing your town being erased and removed and all of your villagers being murdered forever. Finally, Sven will have some final parting words with you before leaving you to your new game with a fresh start. I wonder if we'll ever see each other again. Whatever. And then whatever the little like saying thing is. He's straight up bitter about it. That's very different from what you would expect from Animal Crossing. But hey, I guess they really wanted to discourage players from deleting their save files, and being a little passive aggressive was their route of doing so. Like I said, there's always that shock factor in any game when you choose to delete your town, but for the most part, they don't really guilt you once you've made the decision. They still warn you of the severity of it, but they don't really just like make you feel bad consistently afterwards. Though after reading the dialogue from the GameCube version, I feel like that short that Denzel made on resetting Animal Crossing, it's a New Horizons short that's really excellent if you haven't seen it, called The Reset, feels more accurate than ever to what maybe a villager experiences when they find out that their town or island is being reset. And now we know there is some murderous intent there. There's an unexpected thing that happens though in Animal Crossing New Leaf if you had the Welcome Amiibo update. After you make the decision to completely remove your island from the game to start fresh, Tom Nook will show up and he will look and offer you a lump sum of bells based on how much progress you made in your Animal Crossing island. In a way, this served as a New Game Plus type option for experienced Animal Crossing players who want to restart, and you could choose to either keep your catalog or sell your knowledge of furniture items and the catalog into that lump sum as well. It was pretty unique, and it kind of gives you this grimy feeling of like doing a deal with the devil and choosing to erase everything so you can get a ton of money. But it was a cool concept, at least, to reward players who had spent a ton of time on their island, to give them a true form of a New Game Plus. But yeah, it's interesting how Tom Nook just kind of slithers in and offers the money for the town. In Animal Crossing New Leaf, you served as the mayor of the town, meaning you're responsible for everyone and the town's upkeep and well-being. However, like with most people who play Animal Crossing, at some point you take a break and you stop playing the town. And a lot of memes have come up over the years of Isabelle being overworked, because whenever the player decides to slack off, Isabelle, being the assistant, has to take up the responsibility of making sure that the town is continuing to function correctly. Nintendo decided to play off of this idea though a bit when they released Happy Home Designer for the 3DS, series where Isabel will straight up make a reference to her experience having to work as an assistant for a mayor who is inactive in the town. In Happy Home Designer, she actually straight up says this: "Usually I prefer to let the town's mayor do the majority of the work, but sometimes mayors just leave. I had a mayor who up and left for 2 years. Can you believe it? Oh, the town of A was rough. If I just learned to relax more. Maybe I should get one of those Nintendo 4DS things." I just love this. In the older Animal Crossing games, you of course had Pelly and Phyllis working at the post office, and Phyllis always had the reputation of being kind of mean or sassy, more standoffish. But in Animal Crossing City Folk, you can actually catch Phyllis in the roost, and if you're at the right time and the vibe is right, Phyllis will actually open up to maybe why she's a little more standoffish in her role, and it's kind of sad. With the town hall open 24 hours a day, I see way too much of the people in this town. Someone needs to open a convenience store with decent hours around here, and I'm not kidding. They keep promising me an assistant or an automatic mail sorter or some kind of help, but it never comes, and folks wonder why I'm grumpy all the time. I can't even count how many years I've been working there. I really should have quit a long time ago, but I don't really have any skills and I'm too old to learn. And I don't know, sure, Phyllis doesn't need to be rude all the time, but I maybe have a little bit of sympathy now. Okay, this next one's a little more abstract, so we won't really hang on it for too long, but there's also the really sad feeling when you are an Animal Crossing player who's really involved playing this game with friends, and slowly over time you witness your friends one by one losing interest in Animal Crossing. And you look back at your history of your town or your island that you've had for years, and you have fond memories of having friends come over and visit, or going over to other friends' places to visit, and just to know that they don't play the game anymore, that they've moved on, and that part and chapter of their life is over. Across all of the Animal Crossing game series, so many people in the Animal Crossing community have experienced a loss of a loved one, and in a way, Animal Crossing serves as a time capsule to a perhaps happier time when our loved ones were still with us. A few years ago, I lost my brother who would play the old Animal Crossing GameCube game with me way back when we were kids, and more recently, we've lost a friend who used to play Animal Crossing New Horizons with us. But having a game like Animal Crossing that's always happy or upbeat or serves as this fun virtual escape, in a way solidifies some of these memories and contributes to the reason why so many people really do love this franchise. It's a lot more than just a game. It's a reflection of a certain time in our life, or a creative expansion that lets us connect to other people that are important to us. But that's it for today. What did you guys think about Animal Crossing over the years? Did you have any moments that have stood out where you're like, wow, this is kind of sad or darker than what's expected? Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Make sure you subscribe with notifications on if you've enjoyed this video. We put out new Animal Crossing content on a weekly basis, so it'd be cool to have you guys stick around. But that's it for today. We'll see you all next time with a brand new video.